Hello, and welcome to LabTech Training. My name's Rob, and this is the first session of the LabTech Fundamentals class, Getting Started with LabTech. During the next 2 hours, we're going to be talking about the LabTech system as a whole. We're going to break it down into its three major components. We're going to talk about how best to use these components to facilitate our business of IT support. The best way to get the most amount of value from this training is really just to put down your mouse and watch it. Maybe you want to have a pen and paper at hand to jot down some notes, but we're going to be rapid firing a whole lot of LabTech at you. Okay, we have a lot of content to cover and a very little time to do it. Now, if you miss something, don't worry. You will have, before this your training is over, you will have a copy of all the videos that you see here. So, without any further delay then, let's jump into it.
Our first topic today will be on the three components that comprise our LabTech system. What are they, and how do they work together? Here are the three major components of our LabTech system. We, of course, have our LabTech server. Now, if you think of the system as a hub and spoke system, that's a good way to think about how network communications work in LabTech. The LabTech server is at the center of our hub. One of those spokes, many of our spokes, is probably going to be agent computers. Now, an agent computer is a machine that we are responsible for and that we have installed the LabTech agent onto. As a result of this installation, this agent computer will be constantly updating itself and reporting into our LabTech server. The control center. This is where we drive the system. This is how we remote control to an agent computer or set up a monitor for one of our clients. The vast majority of the time we spend in training will be spent on the control center. The purpose of our server holds our database. It runs the redirector, performs all of these other purposes. And here's some best practices follow when building your LabTech server. Probably not a bad screenshot opportunity here as well. Our control center. As I mentioned, this is the portion where we're going to be spending the most amount of time in this video. This is how we have impact on our agent computers. This is how we create scripts, build our monitors, organize our customers. We're going to be talking about all these pieces in this in our training. And finally, the agent machine. It enables the remote computer for our management. And it's going to provide some front-end tools for the customer self-service. I'll show you what those are as we go forward. So these three pieces all together make up the LabTech system. Now, before we jump in, let's talk about how to install the control center on our stations. Now, the control center was installed by default on our LabTech server when we installed the LabTech server. But of course, we're going to want to have this on our workstations as well. So the first thing that you'll need to do is map an L drive. Okay, this is my L drive mapping. I mapped to my LabTech server to its LT share directory. And from that spot, I can navigate to the L drive and go to the WKS install directory, where I can go ahead and run the control center installer. Probably not a bad idea to go ahead and run this as the administrator. Once complete, we'll also launch the ODBC for MySQL. This will also be installed on your system. And here's some notes. And probably not a bad opportunity to grab a screenshot right here. It says what I just described here. Map your L drive to the LT share directory of your LabTech server, and then go ahead and run from the WKS install directory the control center installer executable. Now, the first time you'll sign in, you'll need to have credentials. These are the default credentials already set up in your LabTech system. Please be aware the password and the username in LabTech are both cap sensitive. So a lowercase admin signing in is not the same as an uppercase admin. Okay. For the server address, use your fully qualified domain name. Use port 3306 and connect to the LabTech database. As such, notice again my username is capitalized with the A in admin. My password is the same. I'm connecting to my LabTech server to the LabTech database. When I click Login, I see a splash screen and my control center. While we have this control center up, let's talk about some of the ways that LabTech Control Center can be used to organize our customers. The primary method is by clients. You'll notice I have one client in here. Think of a client in LabTech as a customer. This is one billable entity. Okay. Now if I drill into my client, I'm going to hit that little plus sign next to it. Notice how my tree expanded here. I have contacts. These are client contacts, specifically for use for this client only. Okay. And I have a couple of locations. Now think of a location in LabTech as a subnet. Don't be too literal on that. If there are 5 subnets, for example, and they all basically act as one, that still should only be one location in LabTech. Okay, what we want here are isolated subnets. Each location should be its own isolated subnet. If I expand a location, I can see a computer. Now, there's only one machine reporting in to LabTech right now. It's this computer, but this is the hierarchy, and it never is changed in your system. We have clients, hold locations, we have locations, and they hold computers. If I try to drag and drop this computer into another location, it's not a problem. However, if I try to drag and drop this computer to a client, you notice that that cannot be done. Computers never go into clients. Computers always are a subset of a location. Another way to organize our customers in LabTech are with groups. We're going to be talking about these in much more depth at a later date, but for now, just think of these as OUs in Active Directory. Okay, they work the same. Basically, we can assign attributes to our groups. All members of the group will receive the attributes of the group. As I said, we'll talk about these more in detail going forward, but the point of groups in LabTech is really to primarily deploy your service product. We also have searches. Okay, if I'm looking for, let's say, Windows servers, I'll scroll to Windows servers and I will double click it. Notice our search appears in this window. We are looking for computers that have the word server in their operating system description. We are looking for machines that also have the word Microsoft in their operating system description. This is our return set. We have one Microsoft server reporting in, and that's my LabTech Workshop computer. These 3 pieces can be combined. Again, we'll get into more detail on that when we get into the groups. But for now, just the takeaway is this: clients hold locations, locations hold computers. Other pieces to be aware of. Going forward, you're going to hear some talk on templates. Now, if you expand admin, you will see a templates folder, and if we expand this will show us all of the templates in our system. Double click the default template, and this will bring up the template editor. Think of templates as registry files to the LabTech agent. We can assign one or more of these templates to a target machine, and it will act based on the selections chosen here. Again, we'll get more in depth. I just wanted to show you how to find templates. Also good to know are schedules. Also listed under admin, also expandable to show all the different schedules that are in your system. If I double click one of these schedules, the schedule editor appears, and the job of the schedule is to automate how LabTech, your LabTech server, learns about the hardware, the software, the services, and other metrics from the remote machines. For example, any machine running the server's scheduler will report its update and hotfix inventory each and every day at 8 in the morning, one time a day. Again, we'll come back to this. Another piece to be aware of, contacts. Now, we already saw client contacts assigned to a specific client. Okay, but any contacts that are added to this level okay, will only be usable for this one client. If we have a contact that we wish to be able to work for all of our clients, it wants to be added here. Now this is important because these contacts are also potential recipients of LabTech alerts. Now before we get too far in to the control center and its use, let's talk a little bit about the best way to learn how to really use this system. It probably is very similar to the way we learned Windows, with a little classroom time and a little bit of trial and error. Okay, but of course we do not want to do any trial and error on our production LabTech system. We might impact our customers, we might impact our company's bottom line. So we need a good environment in which to, well, for lack of a better word, to play with the system, see what can be done, see what can't be done, to test the pieces that we want to use before they go into production. So let's talk about how to back up our server and to do a restore. Easiest way to do a backup and restore of your LabTech server. Go ahead and just stop the Lab MySQL service. When you stop that service, you're going to be prompted to stop a couple of other services. Go ahead and stop those. Copy your LabTech directory from your program files, a straightforward, simple file copy. Okay, put it on a key fob, a network share, does not matter. And then restart all your LabTech services. Your LabTech system is now backed up and running again. Now if we want to do a full restoration, what we need to do is rebuild a LabTech server, a Windows server using the same version of Windows Server that we previously running. We want to copy the LabTech directory that we got from here, okay, and just put it right into the program files directory, right from where we found it. Then go ahead and install the LabTech server. Again, just like with the Windows server, we're going to be using the same version of LabTech to do this install as was running when we made this file copy. Okay. Once the installation is done, your LabTech server will be up and running. If your FQDN is set at that point, your production agents should be reporting into it immediately. But this is also a good way for us to build a test system that looks exactly like our production system. Okay, so if you're doing that, go for this fourth step. Change the system password. Okay, the reason for that is this. We don't want our production agents reporting into our development LabTech server, right? And of course, we're going to isolate the network as best we can, so production agents do not report in. But sometimes mistakes are made, routes change, and who knows, maybe those agents are reporting in. So that's why on my test system, I clicked Tools, and I clicked Change System Password. Now the default one was our password, and I changed this one as shown here. Okay, so if production agents do accidentally report into my test system here, because this system password is going to be different, those agents will not be attended to by my LabTech server. Okay, I can't recommend this enough. Go ahead and build yourself a test environment. This is a great place not only to learn LabTech, but to build your future production monitors and your future scripts that are going to be used. And monitors, scripts, searches, reports, these are all pieces that can be exported. Maybe this is a script that we wrote on our test system and we like it, so we want to move it over to our production system. So just go ahead and open up the script, click Export, decide where you want to export it to, save it as an XML file. Then on your production LabTech system, simply click Tools, Import, XML Expansion, and that will import that component that you made on a different LabTech system. Whether it's a monitor or a script, it doesn't matter. It will drop into the proper place and will thus be imported into your new system. Okay, so really try to make sure that you're running on a test system. That way you can kind of drive with impunity and you're not worried about making mistakes. You won't be gun shy. You probably might break it once in a while, Not a big deal. You're not going to impact your customers, but you definitely walked away learning, well, at least how not to do something in lab tech. Our next step is going to be to deploy an agent to another computer so that it reports into our lab tech system. To do this, I have a Windows 7 machine here. Note that it is not running LabTech. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the browser, just positioning this so we can see the address here. I'm going to go to the web page that my LabTech server is on. Now this should be a fully qualified domain for all of you. I'm going to use a dotted quad here. Okay. Now this is the screen we're going to see. Notice that we have a user login. This is for the Web Control Center. We have a quick connect button down here. We'll talk about that in a moment. But right now, let's scroll down a little bit. And let's go ahead and get this install agent link. It's going to download the agent installer. And let's just save this to the desktop for now. And there it is. I'm going to double click this icon, say yes to the dialog, and we're going to let the process run. When we're done, we should notice a couple of changes on this desktop. The first of which, if we go to the C drive, if we go to the Windows directory, we are going to notice a new directory in the Windows directory, the LT-SVC directory. Now this is where the LabTech agent installs, and here are all the build files for our agent. We should also notice the tray icon. And if we don't see it here, this will actually pop up. Oh, there it is. What I was going to say is if we didn't see it pop up quick enough for us, we could always go to Startup, and that is the tray icon as well. But as mentioned, it's already up here and running. We got a success message. So I'm going to minimize this Windows 7 workstation, get it out of the road. I am going to click Tools and refresh the navigation tree, and I'm going to drill in Clients, Workshop, Main Office. And I don't see the computer here. Well, the reason for that is because when we used the default installer, that's going to populate the new computer's location. Going forward, anytime we install an agent on a machine and don't expressly determine for which location it is a member, and I'll of course show you how to do that in a little bit, it's always going to appear in the new computers, okay, regardless of what client it's supposed to go to. Now, grab, drag, and drop it to the location you want it to be at. You'll see a pop-up, move the computer from the register to the main office. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to double-click on this new machine. And let's talk about this screen for a little bit. This is called the computer screen in LabTech. And this is this is the place we go whenever we want to make modifications to a target machine or perhaps see some information. Let's drill into this a little bit. So this screen is the computer screen in LabTech, and the purpose of this screen is to allow us to control this machine remotely or see information. For example, we have a breakdown of the operating system and the BIOS over here. We're running a Windows 7 enterprise machine, specific version 6.1. It is in the Eastern Time Zone. Most of these fields are display informational only. Probably be a good idea for you to learn exactly what's where, so if you need to know the uptime, for example, at a glance, you can just look over and see how long the machine's been up. A couple fields of note here. Number one, this is how to assign a contact to a machine. We'll come back to this when we talk about monitors, but you'll see computer contact as an option. This is how to assign a contact to a computer. Notice here as well we have the currently signed on user, and this is a pull down. There's only one user signed on right now, so we only have one option. However, if there are more users on a terminal server, for example, all the users that were currently signed in would list here. Okay. Now the reason for this is because some of the buttons have a little user-based functionality. For example, let me right-click here, and I am going to request a screenshot. This is going to come in, and basically it is going to be the screenshot for the user that is selected here. Were there more users and I selected a different user, requested a screenshot, I would see their session. Okay. Likewise with the Lab VNC button. When I click this and say OK, we are going to remote into this user's session. Were there more users and we selected a different user, we would remote into their session. Again, in the scope of terminal servers, this is a good mechanism for us to provide direct support to terminal server customers. And here's our remote control. Moving forward, we have a hardware tab. The hardware tab is going to describe the physical hardware of the machine, the processor, the interrupts, memory. Now this is a virtual machine, and so I don't think it's reporting its memory in quite properly. We also have a list of the locally signed on users. Now if this was a domain controller, all the domain user accounts would be listed here, and the functionality that I'm about to show you would apply as well. But these are local user accounts. Any one of these I can select, right click, and make changes. I can change the password, I can reset it, maybe they lock themselves out. Okay, so when you get phone calls or tickets that talk about user management, you don't necessarily have to remote into the domain controller to take care of your customer. Probably can do it right from this screen. Next is the Drives tab. This is going to display any physical disk attached to the remote machine. This computer seems to have a C and a D drive, a hard disk and a CD-ROM. Select the disk and this changes the display. 36 megs on the CD-ROM, and of course it's all used. And the C drive looks like it's about a 20 gig hard drive, of which we're using 8.9 gigs. Little display here, graphical showing you the utilization. Same thing down here. This is a little defrag map showing us how much of the hard disk is fragmented. We're also going to give you a list up here. Looks like about 1%. Now at any time we can right click and run a defrag. Now I know what you're thinking. You probably don't want to run defrag on somebody's computer while they're using it. And while normally that is true, not so much with LabTech, because when we run commands from our local console here, basically those commands are executed on the remote using the lowest system priority. What this means is that we're only going to use unused CPU cycles to affect this command. If a user clicks something or runs a process, that process will have precedence over our defrag. Bottom line, they won't notice that the defrag is running. This is probably a test that you'll have to run internally to believe it for yourself, but go ahead and try it on your test system. Go ahead and defrag the machine you're working on and then continue working. See if you even notice it. Next tab we're going to touch upon is the Printers tab. When I select it, I get a list of all the installed printers on the remote machine, and after a right click, the ability to clear the print queue. We're going to hit the Software tab next. I will click it and show you that this machine has one title installed on it, the additions for the VM. Notice that this app listing is whitelisted. Now we can right click it, click Software, and add it to a blacklist. What does this mean? Well, what this means is this title is now flagged, not just for this one computer or this one client, but this is a global modification. Anytime LabTech sees this title, it is considered a blacklisted application and will be flagged as such. In our next session, we'll talk about monitoring. When you see the monitors, we'll talk about the blacklisted installed application. Okay, and that monitor is built to detect a blacklisted application installed on a machine. It will give us an alert. We can run a script to uninstall. We can create a ticket based upon it. Okay, but this is the software tab. It's going to show us the software that's installed. I am going to go ahead and put this back on the whitelist, as so. And now this is a known good app. That's what whitelisted means. Note that we can also uninstall the application or run in the installation as the user. Services. Again, this is a list of services that are installed on the remote machine. Again, a right click will bring up a context menu where we can stop a service, stop a running service, or start a stop service. We can also change the next boot up startup type of this service. Let's hit the Processes tab next. Now all the processes this machine was running when we did an inventory are listed here. But of course these processes are very volatile. Chances are this is not an accurate snapshot of the remote machine right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to tell LabTech to resend our list. Once we see the screen flash as it just did, we know now that this is an updated list. This is a current list. And we have the capability to end a process by PID or by name. Notice that when we select a different process, the list of associated DLLs, executables, and OCXs will appear here. Okay, the idea here is that we can use LabTech to do some virus inspection. We can double click a DLL, for example, and we will bring you to WinDLL, and we will search for that DLL. Chances are, if it's a virused DLL, it will display here. And if that's the case, we can use LabTech to remediate this machine. What I'm going to do is assume that, I don't know, these bottom two are our virus process. You know how viruses love to run multiple processes, each one making sure the other one's up. So if we try to kill with Task Manager, as soon as the first one's terminated, the second one will fire it back up. Okay, we've all played the Task Manager game. It doesn't work very well. In LabTech, what we're going to do is we're going to uncheck the known bad process. We're going to right click and we're going to put this machine in lockdown. Now what lockdown does is it prevents any app other than what is listed and checked from running on the target machine. Okay, so if Internet Explorer or an Outlook and all these other apps are running on the target machine and we have not unchecked them before putting them in lockdown, they will continue to run. The only thing that will be impacted are unchecked processes and if a new process is attempted to run. Now that these processes are no longer running, we can go ahead and delete the virused source. And there's a couple different ways we can do this. First, with just the simple command prompt. This command prompt is CLI on the remote machine. I can type a command and it will execute just as if I were in a DOS shell. Okay, so from here we could run the delete, type in the path, and that'll remove the file. Another way to do this, browsers, open up the File Explorer. This will give us this pop-up window which will show us the remote machine's file tree. We can use it to drill in, right click, for example, and delete a file. Probably the best way, though, to remove a file in this context would be to use the Startup tab. Now the Startup tab is going to show us all the elements that are going to load on this machine's startup, wherever they're at, the 20 or so locations that you can hide startup items on a Windows machine. And we can right click and delete file and the value. Now that process was running for a reason, probably because it was in the startup. And sure enough, I came over here and I found it, so I want to remove the value from startup and delete the offending file. Notice it points to a specific file here. So clicking on this button will take care of that machine. Okay, though it might be a good idea to cross-reference this across all of your clients, simply because you took some time to diagnose the issue, you identified the bad startup entry, and it wouldn't hurt to see if this exists on any of the other machines that you're responsible for. So just click that, and if any other machine has that value in the startup, it will list here. Looks like I have another computer that's running the vboxtray.exe. Patching. We're going to go into this in much greater detail, but I just want to show you right for now on the computer screen we can initiate an install of a patch. Simply select which hotfix you want to install right now, right click it, and click to install the patch now. Conversely, if it's installed and you want it removed, this will do the trick. Now, approve hotfix is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. In fact, forget all these 5 for now. Want to point out this too, open knowledge base article. Maybe you're researching a hotfix, you want to know more about this hotfix, what it does. This will open up in your LabTech browser the KB article that describes this. We can also download the patch file directly to the local to our LabTech system. Okay, so maybe we want to do some testing before we go ahead and deploy it to a machine. Here's the executable to go ahead and do that. The Logs tab is going to show us the event logs on the remote machine, application, security logs, system logs, other. Okay, we can double click the log event ID if we don't know exactly what this event ID means. If we say yes, we'll do an event ID search. If we say no, we'll do a Google search. So for this one, I'm going to say yes, just to show you. We go right to the event ID. Tells us what this is about. This also works on the log message. If you're trying to discern what a log means, just double click the log message. I'll say no to this one because I want to run it through Google. The Monitors tab. This tab will show us all the monitors that are installed on this remote machine. We have not yet issued any monitors to this machine, so there are none listed here. This is something we'll come back to. Okay, but whether we're stopping a service or uninstalling software or killing a process, defragging a hard drive, okay, none of these actions will be noticed by our end user in the command line at all. Okay, again, the only way our customer is going to note that we're on the machine is if we do a remote control that will prompt them to let them know that that a technician is remoted in. Now, when we were looking at that computer screen, I mentioned a couple times that the list might not be current. That is because what we are looking at is not real-time data. Okay, that's all cached information. That's information that we pulled from that remote machine at some time in the past. Now, what is that time, and how do we modify that? Well, as mentioned earlier, let's look at our schedules. Double tap the workstation schedule to get this pop up here. And this is the schedule by which LabTech is going to receive information from the workstation machines that are reporting in. We pull software at 6 at night. We pull processes at 8 in the morning. So if we're running this at 10 in the morning, for example, chances are that the processes that were pulled 2 hours ago are a little out of date. Okay, but I want to bring your attention to the schedule. This is what brings in all of our information from our remote machines. These can be scheduled to run at any time in the day and repeat as many times during the day as you like. Now, if a computer comes on after, let's say you turn your computer on at 9 in the morning, well, you already missed the update configuration, you missed the process list, you missed the Windows Startup location scan, you missed a bunch of these. Here's what's going to happen. LabTech is going to see that computer come up and wait 15 minutes after it sees it up. This is to allow the user, our end user, to load their startup, to get work started, and to get moving on forward before we start trying to do things to their computer. Once that 15 minutes is up, we're going to do the polling that was missed overnight. So we could potentially be running 4, 5, or all of these, depending on how long ago they shut down. Okay, so just because a computer is not on when a poll takes place does not mean you're going to miss the poll. We'll hit it as soon as 15 minutes after we see that computer come back up. So that's how the LabTech system is going to get its information inventories back from the remote machines. But how does LabTech communicate in the first place? Let's talk about that. Here we have our environment. We have our control center machine, our LabTech server, and our remote agent. And I use the console to start the bits service on this remote machine. Now, as soon as I click it, that command is immediately sent to my LabTech server where it is staged. Start the bits service. And it's going to sit there. It's going to wait. It's going to wait for this remote computer to heartbeat in. Because the LabTech agent is installed on it, it will heartbeat in at the 5-minute mark. Every 5 minutes, our remotes heartbeat in. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to this. The first one being master computers. Master computers report in every 30 seconds. We'll talk about those in a minute. And fast-talked machines report in every 5 seconds. This is basically used for the machine that we're working on at the moment. Okay. Once you're done working on it, fast talk is going to realize that you're idle and turn off. It's going to revert back to its 5-minute heartbeat. But back to our machine here, we have a command staged for it, and we're waiting for this to heartbeat in. Again, that's going to be 5 minutes. So maybe a couple seconds after we click it, or maybe 4 minutes 30 seconds later, the machine does heartbeat in. And it gets the command. When it heartbeats in and communicates with the LabTech server, it gets its command and then executes its command. It is now going to try to start the bit service. And depending on its, regardless of its return, success or fail, it is going to report that back to our LabTech server. In this case, we actually successfully started the bit service, and will transmit that success back to our server, where it is immediately sent to our control center, and our screen is then updated. You'll notice the screen flashes a little bit, and the state will change. Okay, so that is how LabTech communicates with agent computers. Let's see this in action. Here's my LabTech control center, and here is my computer screen. Notice this machine is not scheduled to report in for another 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm going to click the command prompt and ipconfig. Enter. Now, I don't expect this command to be run for 4 minutes and something seconds. Ordinarily it wouldn't, but I'm on the phone with my customer. And here's the computer. And what I can do is ask them to click on the tray icon and then select Send Status. What this does is it forces a heartbeat to happen right now. Okay, and you saw in the back that screen update. Basically, he heartbeat this machine heartbeat in, got the ipconfig command, and then reported back to the LabTech system with its return. And here we see it. Notice we're still in a 5-minute heartbeat interval. That's because the fast talk command has not been run. Okay, again, I'm going to click fast talk, and again, we would normally have to wait 4 minutes and 30 seconds for this command to hit, but I'm going to bring that workstation back, do another send status, push this down, and now we're in fast talk. Every 5 seconds this machine is going to heartbeat in. If there's any commands pending for it, it will receive them, do them, and report back to our server with the return. This is one mechanism we can use to kind of hide the fact that the heartbeat happens every 5 minutes. We like to have a nice low bandwidth. However, we do like to be able to hit a machine when we need to hit it. Using the send status can help when working on a remote machine that isn't scheduled to report in for a few minutes and you're trying to get immediate functionality. Another mechanism that can help us have very quick response to remote machines is the master checkbox. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring up another computer and show that it is a master. We suggest having at least one master per location. As mentioned, the master will report in every 30 seconds, and he'll also be responsible for notifying any local machines if there's a command pending for it. Let's demonstrate that. Let's pull this machine out of fast talk. Okay, we've got another 5 minutes heartbeat. I'm going to go to the command prompt again, and I don't know, let's run hostname. Enter. Now, normally you would have to wait 4 minutes and 45 seconds for this command to come back. However, because there is a master at the location where this computer is staged, we should see this command come back within, at the very most, 30 seconds. The reason for that is that master computer, when it heartbeats in, will notice that there is a command pending to his neighbor. Let's see how this works. Here's our environment, except we're going to make it a little more realistic. We're actually not trying to work on one computer. We have a whole bunch of computers at our remote office. So we want to start the bit service. Here's our target machine. We have the command staged on our LabTech server waiting for the remote to heartbeat in. Okay, as stated, every 5 minutes. But there's a master computer there on site, and he heartbeats in every 30 seconds. Okay, so while the command start bits is staged for this machine waiting for it to heartbeat in, the master computer heartbeats in a little faster. He reports in, he sees a pending command for his neighbor, and again, neighbor as defined by location, and does what I call a peer-to-peer elbow nudge. He's going to force this computer to do an early heartbeat. That remote is going to do an early heartbeat to the LabTech server, gets the bits command, executes the bits command, and goes forward just like it normally would. That is the master computer in LabTech. There's also a couple of other functions that it does. For example, if you send a wake on LAN packet, it's the local master that's going to actually issue that magic packet. Again, there's a couple of other functions in there as well, but the major point for the master computer is to facilitate communications, speedy communications, to a remote environment. The next topic we're going to discuss is how to brand the LabTech agents. Branding is done with a template. I'm going to expand templates. I'm going to double click the default template. As mentioned earlier, you can think of a template as a registry for an agent. Notice the server address is listed here. Highly recommend to enable this setting on your default template and go ahead and enter in your fully qualified domain name. And if you click the branding tab, you'll see a couple options here. First is trade text. Trade text is going to determine what pops up when a mouse is held over the icon. In this case, LabTech Network Monitoring Software is displayed. And that is the default setting. Perhaps you want to specify a different trade text. Go ahead and populate that here. Service display name. That is going to display here. Right now, by default, it says LabTech Workshop, but these fields will be changed depending on what is populated here. Now, probably the most important one, the custom tray icon. By default, it's going to be a little green LabTech logo. Obviously, you probably want to have this service that you're offering branded to your own company. So go ahead and click the load icon and select a icon file. Okay, anybody receiving the default template, and that would be everybody, will display your custom icon. A couple of other pieces in here to be aware of. Access modes. Now, by default, we're going to give you all the access that you want. If you submit a reboot command, it will happen immediately. If you run the File Explorer, again, that'll happen immediately. But we're going to have some environments where we can't do that. So in those cases, what we want to do is enable and make changes. Ask, if a reboot command is sent and the template is sent to ask, a pop-up will appear on the remote machine asking that user if it's okay to go ahead and reboot. And it will sit there until somebody has made a selection. Now notice the two options just underneath that, ask then allow, ask then deny. In either case, if a reboot command is sent to the target machine, again, it will prompt the user if it's okay, but with these ask then allow, ask then deny, it'll only sit there for 30 seconds. If no answer is given, the default answer in this case will be to allow the reboot. You'll then notice the machine bounce. Ask then deny does the exact opposite. It sits for 30 seconds, and if no answer is given, a no is assumed. The machine will not reboot. We have these controls over the VNC, Lab VNC. Same actions. For File Explorer or Registry Exploring, again, same questions. And for Screenshot mode. So maybe if you have some customers that are HIPAA compliant, you'll have to make changes here. Now, without getting into groups in too much detail, I do want to show you how we can assign templates. I'm going to expand groups. I'm going to double click all agents. Auto join search. We are going to grab all computers that come into LabTech and we're going to make them a member of this group. We are then going to assign the default template to them. This all agents group is why the default template is applied to each and every computer and should not be removed from your LabTech system. If you look in your service plans, notice we also assign templates here. There is a template hierarchy. The default template will always land on the target machine first. All subsequent templates being assigned to that computer will overwrite the settings on the default template. For example, I am going to create a restricted VNC template. And all this template is going to do is change the VNC mode to ask then deny. I'm going to add that template. Notice I now have a restricted VNC template listed in my templates directory. I am going to create a group. And we're going to call this restricted VNC. And all this group is going to do is apply the restricted VNC template. Save. Okay. My client over at the LabTech workshop has asked me to apply the restricted VNC template to their organization. Now that I have my group created, I can grab, drag, and drop the client into the group. All computers reporting into the LabTech workshop will get the restricted VNC template assigned to them. Now the trick with templates is make sure your secondary templates are not in disagreement. Conflicting secondary templates will result in an unknown return. Okay, what I'm saying here is if I made another group that had unrestricted VNC and explicitly said VNC to allow, and LabTech Workshop was a member of both groups, which template would they get? And the answer is we don't know. Why? Because there's two templates being assigned to the same target that are in conflict. Okay. Now remember that the default template is not part of this. The default template always comes first and will always be overwritten by secondary templates. Okay. Every other template in the system can be considered a secondary template. Templates are the means by which we assign our schedules. It is done here. On a default LabTech system, you will notice that you have a servers and a workstations and a laptops template. This is assigned by the agent types group. Notice we have laptops, servers, and workstations. If I double click workstations, we have an auto join search of Windows workstations. All Windows workstations will automatically become members of this group and will be assigned the workstation template. What does this mean? Essentially, it means that the workstation schedule will be assigned to this machine. We do the same with servers. Servers are auto-joined to this group. Servers are auto-assigned the server template. If we look at the server template, we see it gets the server schedule. There's something to note here. There is one exception to the schedules that is worth mentioning. All of these items will be pulled at these times. And again, remember this is for servers. Now, because event logs are so critical to our monitoring, okay, we really don't want to rely purely on this one-time pull of event logs from our servers. Notice this happens in the 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, but what happens if a log comes in at 8 o'clock that we want to know about? Well, that is why the server template changes the event log mode. Default is to only use the schedule. What that means is LabTech will only receive the log files from the remote machines per the schedule. But there's an override for this. We have this one set to immediately send errors. What this means is any server that's reporting into your LabTech system, if it gets an error in the event log, we'll immediately send that in to our LabTech server. It'll be stored in the database and trappable by an internal monitor. Again, monitoring is something we'll discuss in our next video. Well, we mentioned searches a couple times there. It'd probably be a good idea to understand what they are. If you navigate to the bottom of the tree view, you'll see searches. Go ahead and expand that. What you'll see here is a list of every search in your LabTech system. Okay, and if you double click them, Windows computers for example, you'll see how this search is built. We look at the OS name for a value that has Windows in it, does not have Windows CE, nor does it have Windows Mobile. If it satisfies these conditions, we call it a Windows computer. Windows servers, right there, double click. We see the word server and we see the word Microsoft in the operating system name. Okay. Now you can make modifications to these. You can create your own searches, although I would not recommend modifying existing searches. Okay, if you want to use one as a template, maybe you want to see all the Microsoft servers at a certain client. Okay, so let's go ahead and modify this. Select client. Now what I always try is I try this pull down, and if you click it and nothing happens, then just skip it. Some fields do not require a related, others do. So the client equals, I'm going to hit the triple dots, I'm going to click find. All the clients in my system will list here, and I can either double click or push the arrow to select. I'll click OK. So we've modified the condition here. We now say operating system name has the name word server in it, has the word Microsoft in it, and it is a client at the LabTech workshop. So as I said, do not overwrite existing searches, just modify them and change their name. So Windows servers at LT workshop. Save. Notice now I have my Windows servers, double click, there's my original search, double click, and I have my Windows servers at LT workshop search. Okay, we've spoken about various components of the LabTech system. Let's bring this all together here, shall we? Let's talk about onboarding. Now here's our Windows 7 machine. We installed the default agent installer, and as a result, that machine appeared in the new computers group for our first client. This is not a standard we're going to want to do in practice though. So let's reset this to 0. Let's bring this all the way back. I'm going to navigate to the LabTech servers webpage again. And I'm going to click the Agent Uninstaller. I'm going to save this file. Again, we'll put this right on the desktop. And we'll go ahead and run this. Now while that's running, let's prep a new client. Let's say we just made a new sale. We want to onboard our new customer. Right-click Clients and select to add a new client. Populate these fields as appropriate. Now you can see here I've populated all the fields. One field of note, new ticket notification email. Perhaps this is a customer for which anytime they send in a ticket you want to be notified personally. Go ahead and populate your email address here and that will happen. I'm going to click to add new. Note now we have a second client in our LabTech system, Acme Incorporated. I'm going to double click them to open up the client editor. Note again, this is where we populated their initial information, but there's quite a bit of other tabs for which we can populate some information. First one we're going to jump to is the passwords.
you want to go here. This should be your next step. Right click and select to add an entry. I would recommend adding at the very least 2 entries. One is going to be a domain admin, and when we ever in LabTech reference a domain account, we always use this naming convention: domain name / username. Go ahead and put in the password. In this case, 123, 123. The dots toggle between hide and show password. I'm going to select OK. Now we have a new entry here. I'll right click to add an entry. Let's go ahead and add the local admin. Because this is a local account, we'll use just the username here. Now there is some functionality in the system. We can call these credentials and whenever a script, or if we're in the computer screen and we want to run as admin, we can use these, but these can also be placeholders. Maybe you're a technician and you went on site to deploy a wireless access point. Good idea to save your credentials in LabTech, so the next technician that's on site, if they need to access that wireless access point, they can just open up their LabTech, double tap, and see the password. Okay, now that we have the passwords populated, let's go over to the Info tab. What you want to do at this point is select the service plan you're going to be providing this customer. Use the pull down and select gold, silver, or bronze. In this case, I'm going to select no contract. The customer hasn't yet decided, but we are going to go forward with the onboarding process. So for now, I'll put them on no contract. Maybe later, once they sign, I'll come here and make the change. Select the default alert template. Well, this one won't make much sense to you at this point, but this is where you select it. I'm going to select the default 24/7. Now, except in some very rare cases, you're always going to want to click to enable the onboarding. What onboarding does, it's a script that we run on all the machines that report in from this client, and we basically determine which type of machine they are. Is it a mail server? Is it a web server? Is it a domain controller? And so on. And we assign monitors based on that detection, on those roles that we have detected that machine owns. Okay, so definitely hit this checkbox. I'm going to right click the client. I'm going to select View Report, Client Reports, and let's select the Health Report. Now notice there's a whole bunch of different health reports in here. Refer to your documentation for descriptions on the differentiators here. And this is it. Now my machines haven't been running in the system long enough for health checks to run. You'll see this within the first 24 hours of machines being in your system. Scripts not running. You'll also notice our logo here. To modify that, simply navigate to the L reports directory and change the logo.png file, and that will update here. But at any rate, this is the health report. So that's what we're talking about here. And the options that we select will impact that health report. For example, if a server fails for this customer, do we want that action to impact our report? If so, go ahead and hit record stat. Now raise alert will also record the stat, but it'll raise alert in the system or create a ticket as well. I'm just going to pick to record the stat. Workstations failed action. I'm going to do the same thing here. Additional server checks. Again, these are simply in relation to impacting our health check. If there is, let's say we select antivirus here. If there's no antivirus on a server, it is going to be flagged in that health report. If we don't want to see that, go ahead and select none. Okay. Daily, weekly, and monthly health reports. Do we want these to be created and sent out to recipients? And I do. I want to see a daily health report. I don't need to see the full daily. I'm happy with a condensed. And you know, I don't want to see a weekly necessarily, but I do want to see a full report every month. And there it is. So, assuming a 30-day month, 29 days I will receive the health report condensed. Okay, on the 30th day, on the end of the month, I will get the full health report. Now, normally I would get the daily, but because I'm getting the monthly as well, the daily will be suppressed. This also happens if weekly is selected. If I had selected weekly, day 1 through 6, I would see the daily report. Day 7, maybe I'd get a summary. The patching. If you want the machines at this for this client to be patched automatically, go ahead and click to enable patching. Okay, this will add it to a group for which we will automatically approve all hotfix updates. Okay, so basically I can click this and not worry about their patches. But I do need to specify a hotfix window. When are we going to install and reboot these machines? And I'm going to pick Sunday. Okay. Now, for the most part, the rest of these data fields are display only, informational. A couple things to keep in mind about these, what we're calling extra data fields, is that our scripts and searches can read these. Scripts can actually also write to these as well. You'll notice the virus config settings. If you use one of the antivirus products available through LabTech and you deploy with a LabTech script, these fields will be referenced, so make sure you populate these before deploying a LabTech antivirus installer script. I'm going to click Save Additional Information and close the client. Now, continuing with the onboarding, expand your new client, right-click, and select to add a new location. Remember, clients cannot hold computers. Only locations can hold computers. So if we want any computers to report into this client, we're going to have to add a new location. Main office. Contact. Who do we want the contact for this location to be? We selected monitor alerts. What is this? That is a global contact. Every time we create a location, we will be able to reference monitor alerts for as the contact. Okay. What this means is there is an option in the monitor alert action to notify, send an email to the location contact. That would be monitor alerts. And if you'll allow me one more segue, double click monitor alerts, see the email. So if your ticket is referencing monitor alerts and the ticket action is to email, this will be the email address that the ticket and notification is sent to. Okay, so moving forward with our onboarding. We have our client, we have our location, we've specified passwords at the client level. Double tap the location one more time. Go to Deployment and Defaults and select Login to use for the administrator access. I'm going to hit this pull down and notice the 3 entries I populated in the password tab appear here. We have our domain admin, our local admin, and our wireless access point account in here. Now, it wants administrator access, so I'm going to select the most powerful credentials here. I'm going to use the domain admin. And I'm going to save. Okay, if you remember, we uninstalled the agent from our Windows 7 computer. Okay, I went to the web page of my LabTech server, downloaded the uninstaller, and it did just that. Now, it really didn't have to do that. I could have right-clicked and sent a LabTech command to uninstall LabTech. That would have automatically done the exact same thing, but I wanted to show you the manual option as well. Okay, so now that the agent is no longer on the machine, it is no longer reporting in, this is always going to be dark. So what I'm going to do, is delete the PC. I want to point out the license usage here. Currently monitoring 2 computers. This means I have used up 2 of my licenses in LabTech because 2 computers are populating in my tree. Once I delete this PC, I have recovered that license. I can redeploy it elsewhere. I'm going to go back to my LabTech page, and on the top right, notice there's a user login. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. Okay. If you cannot sign in with your admin account, expand admin, expand users, double-click admin, go to the permissions tab, and click to allow web access and HTTP tunnel. Okay. This is probably not a good idea to do with your admin account though, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they are a super admin. Super admin, as stated, should never allow these web rights. Okay. I also have the default password, admin. Okay. That's probably a really bad idea here as well, but this is my testing environment, and that's what we've done. So why are we here? Well, because I want to point out a couple of things here. MSI packages. Generate an MSI package for Acme Incorporated main office. Save that to the desktop. And there it is. Now, our recommended agent deployment methodology is an MSI through group policy. Okay. I'm going to minimize this. Here's my MSI here. Double click. We'll go ahead and install it. Notice the location ID is populated. When you run this with the /Q, it will run silently, and these pop-ups won't happen. Okay, we have an agent back on our machine. Again, our system tray should pop up momentarily. Let's go ahead and Tools, refresh the navigation tree. Our computer hasn't appeared yet, but it will shortly. Once it starts reporting in, we'll see it here. And you'll notice it will not appear in the new computer's location. It will automatically appear in the proper location for the proper client. Why? Well, remember, when we made our selection, okay, so if I generated an MSI package from here, I should expect all new people running that MSI would appear in the LabTech Workstation main office. However, I had Acme's main office selected, and that's where it is. So let's look at the machine we just deployed to. See what we can do with this agent. Let's suppose our user has an error. Okay. They can use this tray icon for more than just sending the status. They can create a service ticket. They can also do a screen capture. Now it doesn't matter, 6 of one, half dozen the other. They can grab a screen capture right now simply by clicking that and create a service ticket, or they can create the service ticket and click attach screenshot and we'll get the same thing. In either case, this is a good mechanism for our users
It's a good process for them to get tickets in to you. Okay. Now, this is a fresh Windows install. Outlook hasn't been installed on it, so this did not populate with my email address. Though you'll find most of the time this does have the user's email address. And I'll click send. Now, this does look like an email. This is designed to make it nice and easy for our user. It is not email. Okay, so if their email is down, that ticket will still get through to you. Let's go back to our control center here. Wrap these up. Now there's a couple of ways we can see our tickets. The first way I'll show you is with the text center. Now notice I do not have any tickets. I'm not going to be able to use the text center to see new tickets that come in. I'll have to click tickets. I still don't see it. Again, the default view is my tickets. The ticketing in LabTech needs to be assigned to me, or I won't see it in this view. If I click all, here is my ticket. It's in bold because it is brand new. I'm going to double click the ticket. We'll talk about this. Notice here's the message that was sent in. Here's the subject. Here's the customer's email. We have some company information here as well. We have two links here, client and computer. Because the user used the tray icon to send in the ticket, we know exactly what machine it's come from. So we can double click client and see the customer's client information. Perhaps I need a password. Perhaps I want to use the tickets tab to see if there's any other similar tickets that have come from that customer. I can double click computer, and that will open up the computer screen from which the ticket originated. Let's refresh the screenshot here. Why can't I get a screenshot? Well, remember we talked about multiple users on a Windows machine? Double check this. Looks like that came from a secondary. There we go. And here's our screenshot. If I double click, this will open up the screenshot. I can make it larger, get a better view, see what's going on. Let's talk about the ticket process. Now, as mentioned, this ticket is unassigned. Nobody owns the ticket. It is the responsibility of the ticket router. I always refer to this position as ticket receptionist because they're going to do the same with your tickets as they do as a phone receptionist does with the phone calls. They come in, they get routed to the user, and it's done. Okay, the ticket router's job is done here. They can just close the ticket. Let me close this window. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are two ways to see your tickets. Open up the text center, and all the tickets that are assigned to you will populate here. You can double click to open up the ticket, or just click the tickets button, and again the ticket is right here. Process is open up the ticket, click the open button, click start timer, work the problem. Once the problem is satisfied, or there's a state at which you want to stop, go ahead and click finish timer. Now because we have a time entry in here, actually we don't, but there we go. Because we have a time entry in here, we're going to have to notate it. Set the billing category. Now if I'm done with this ticket, if this is all I needed to do and the problem's fixed, go ahead and click Finish Ticket. If you want to notify the user, it will send this message. So maybe I better clean this up. Save. Close. And I'm going to refresh this window by clicking My Tickets. Notice it is gone from this view. It is no longer my ticket to work on, but again, it is still in the system. All will always show all. Completed will show completed, and so forth. Be aware that tickets can come in from users and from monitors. Okay. If you want to see the time that you've worked, timesheet. For the day, week, or month, okay, all the tickets that were assigned and cleared by you will appear here. Okay, we'll talk about how to bill the customer with this time in a moment. But before we do that, let's talk about data views in LabTech. At the very bottom of your tree view here, there's some icons. Go ahead and click the Data Views icon and expand the tree to see your data views. Expand Tickets, double-click All Tickets. This shows all the tickets in the system. Now there's a lot of functionality in these data views. Double-click, for example. In this case, we'll open up the ticket. We can right-click and reply, open, finish. Okay, now the context menu that appears here will be in accordance with the object that we're clicking. For example, let's expand drives, go to all drives. If I right click, now my context menu allows me to defrag or scan the disk. Okay. Click a column header to sort by that column. We can right click and add a column. Maybe I want to see the client name for the owner of this disk. Let's go to Field Chooser. Let's find client name and click. Now my client name's here, but I want to reposition this. I'd rather see this on the other side of the agent name, so grab, drag, and drop. Okay. Maybe I don't care about the drive model here, so right click, remove the column. Okay. We can run searches. Typed in Acme. Now only machines with the client name of Acme appear here. Okay. If you want to search for multiple criteria, use the filter. Maybe I want to see just C drives at Acme, so let's find client name like now these fields are going to be a lot more exact than the search field. If you noticed, nothing popped until I typed out the full name. If you want to use wildcards, it's %. Okay, so we're going to see here's our Acme. Let's find the drive letter. Drive letter. C. And there we go. Okay, click the filtered, that removes it. Click the filtered again, that brings it back. Uncheck, and the filter toggling works in that mode as well. If this is a good data view for you, options, save that data view. This will overwrite the original data view that you opened to see this. It's probably a better idea to save that data view as click that, and we'll say all C drives at Acme. Okay. Now this is a beta, so apparently it's not refreshing here, but I do know that data view is in there. This gives me an opportunity to show you another way to access data views. Just right-click Clients, and you can see data views. In the case drives, all C drives at Acme. Now the difference here is this is going to be a windowed mode, but all the same rules apply. Okay. Now, where you right-click matters. For example, if I only want to see the drives at the LabTech workshop, right-click there, select Data Views, Drives, All Drives, and now I only see them. Let's see, we don't have client name here. We only see at the LabTech workshop. Okay. This also works on groups, all agents, data views. Maybe you want to see alerts from your gold group. This would be the way to do it. Okay. One more thing on these. They do not auto refresh by themselves. You have to select Options, Auto Refresh. What I like to do is push this up a notch and then click over Enable. Now the menu will disappear, and for the first few times you'll probably have to come back and make sure that's checked. But if you see that checkbox there, this screen is auto refreshing, and there's a view. Now data views are just one way to see what's going on. Another way is a heads up display. See right here in the menu, I'm going to click heads up display. Oops. And I'm going to let's see, alerts and status. Okay, and now we have two different windows. This one's showing me all the alerts, and this one's showing me my failed monitors. In this case, I happen to have a failed bits monitor over on my Windows 7 computer. Double click to bring up the monitor. Okay, if these look familiar, it's because they're data views. See how they just work inside a heads-up display? Now the idea of the heads-up display is that you want to dedicate a machine in a monitor, maybe hang it on the wall, and all of your technicians can see this as a knock screen. Now these are fully customizable, and data views are just one part of what's available to you here. I'm going to put the mouse right below the title bar here, and see how this new menu pops up? Config, Layout. I'm going to change the layout triple stack. This resets this HUD. I'm going to right click in this top view here and select to add an item. Let's go ahead and pick data view. You know, I like that ticket view. Except let's look at new tickets. New tickets data view populates in that screen. Now remember, these do not auto refresh, so I'm going to change the time frame and click to enable auto refresh and go back, make sure that's checked, and it sure is. Okay, so any new tickets that come in will populate this screen. Let's see what else is here. Right click, add item. Let's add a sensor panel. See how this empty framework appears? Right click within that to add a sensor, because the sensor panel is just a holder for these sensors. Now there's a bunch of different sensors that are in the system. This is going to show your data in a bar. This is an analog graph. I'm sorry, like a meter reader. Histogram. Let you go through the rest of them if you want to see them. Some of them we can make wide, some of them do not want to go wide. Okay, the analog doesn't want to go wide. The bar will go wide. Okay. Header. What do you want this to display? And then what you can do is just reselect. That'll redraw it with the text in place. Footer does the same thing down here. It's going to replace the number display with what you're typing, or actually add to it. Append. Okay. Use the sensor wizard. This is going to really help you get these things up and running. Okay. Action, custom action. What do we want to look at here? That's really what it boils down to. All the other ones, all or none, unless you want the sensor to be specific to a certain client, location, or computer, just leave them where they are. Okay. Action, custom action. Let's say offline PCs. Notice the header changed. Let's put this footer back to nothing. Now this is going to show real-time data. If there is an offline PC, this would show 1. Okay. We can change the color. Click the color. Little color picker. Alarm action. 20%. Let's say we're looking at drive. Let's just change this to drives free space. Okay. If we wanted to mark it so that it gave us an alarm at a specific level, go ahead and set this. Play sound or flash the screen. Okay, maybe like an attention grabber. Okay. And we can have this relate to a data view. Okay, in this case it probably would make sense. Drives, hard disks. Click OK, and the sensor appears. Right-click Properties if you want to make modifications. Okay. As you see here, now that I've reopened it, because Use the Wizard is not checked, we can have direct queries in here. And these will graph two data points concurrently, as you see here, X and a Y graph. And that obviously, again, will be displayed differently depending on the graph that you choose. Okay, so that's another type of data view. Let's tighten this up and right-click, Add Item, put an image. I think that's self-explanatory. A web page. Let's talk about client health. Now, this is the client health graph. And what this is going to show is an aggregate of how they're doing. This is going to measure how much their system is patched, how much network availability has been charted, how much services have been running, processes are not running that are blacklisted, stuff like that. Okay. Internal Monitor Overview. For those of you that are used to seeing the overview screen, well, it's right here. We can change the size of it. Add Item. ticket summary. Okay. So if you want to create a new one, I definitely recommend spending a little time with these to understand exactly how they work and how best they can serve the needs of your company. One thing neglected to show you, let's just add an alert and a client health. Okay, again, mouse over that median. Save that heads-up display, and I'm going to click Show in Toolbar on Control Center. See how that's checked now? Save. Close. Now there's my new HUD. Click, and it's opened. I want to show you how to configure your system. Click Dashboard. That opens up the dashboard. Okay. Most of the configurations we do will be in the config file. Okay. Server local path, that's going to be the path to your LT share. That is known as the L drive. That's what these are here for. History retention. If you want to keep log files for more than 90 days, well, that's the number to change. Okay, so if you're wondering how long LabTech remembers stuff, it's all listed here with the number of days. Support email. This is the email address to which you want your customers to mail to that result in a ticket. Okay, this needs to be a dedicated mailbox. All email that's in there is going to be assumed to be a ticket. Okay, so if you enable this while there's mail in here, it's going to treat them all like a ticket, by which I mean it's going to read them, delete them, reply to them, and create tickets based on the body of the text. So again, make sure that's an empty mailbox. SMTP POP addresses, SMTP to send, POP to receive. Note the ports. We use standard ports, but you can modify them, of course. The trick with configuring your mail setup is that we use clear text auth only. Okay, so if there's TTL encryption, you're going to have to leverage a relay or a different mail server. Okay, rule of thumb: if you can telnet to it, if you can authenticate to it and communicate with it through telnet, it'll work. It'll work in LabTech. Once you have your values set here, stop and restart. Here's my LabTech server. All programs, LabTech server. Restart your critical services. Okay, because the changes won't take effect until you do so. Redirector config. This needs to be a fully qualified domain name. Okay, don't use dotted quads like I'm showing you here. Okay, port 70, you probably never ever want to change that. Passcode, this is just like a little authenticator. Don't worry about this. I'd leave that there. Control center. This will change the look and feel of your control center. Click on a color, pick the color chooser, change the colors of different objects. Okay, you could brand the control center as well. The icon, the login title, the title LabTech Control Center. A couple system options. I like to click to enable to show the fast talk. Note that auto issue fast talk on window open. Remember when we were talking about fast talk a little earlier? If you're wondering why when you open up computers they always seem to be in fast talk, well, that's the reason. Moving onward, and nothing here. Ticketing. As mentioned at this first screen, if somebody sends you an email, that'll turn into a ticket. Well, we don't always want that to happen. Here's a pipe delimited list of things that are going to be filtered out of that. So if you get one that has in the subject undelivered mail, we won't turn that into a ticket on you. Go ahead and modify this as you see fit. Okay, email Blacklist if there's that guy that you don't want to hear from anymore. Just enter that in again. Pipe delimited. Ticket message control. These are the events on which LabTech will auto reply. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea for you to go through the exercise that I showed you, except do it on a system that the mail actually works on. Use the tray icon to submit a ticket. Use a off-site email address to respond to, and go through the process. See what the customer sees. Okay, just by going through the process, as I showed you with the ticket, the customer will be kept aware of what's going on. They'll be notified of all the events. This checkbox will let you modify that if you want. Okay, new ticket email notification. I mentioned that there was a ticket router. That person's responsible for assigning tickets. Well, probably be a good idea to make sure that they were notified. Put their email address in here. Ticket messages. This is what is communicated to the customer. Notice these are HTML enabled. VNC and ticket priority. You can use this to change the default VNC connection options, although I wouldn't suggest doing that unless support advises you to. We can also change the encoding. This might not be a bad idea to do a little trial and error on. I've noticed that different places report different encoding methods as being better in their environment. For integration, if you have integration, say with a PSA, that will show here. Allow you to make modifications. You'll have to come here when setting those up. And configurations. Now notice when I selected this tab, a whole bunch of subtabs popped up. Okay. First one is time category. Remember on our tickets, when we entered time, we selected a billing category. Well, that's this builds that list. Additional fields. We talked about this. These are the pieces on the info tab. Okay, and these are customizable by you as well. Clients, remember the service plan? There's that gold, silver, and bronze, no contract. Virus scan. When we load up the computer screen, it tells us whether the antivirus is running on the remote machine or not. How does LabTech know? Because it is in this list somewhere. Okay. The method of detection. Start on an easy one, AVG. What we're going to do is we're going to look, whoops, that's not what I wanted. That's a good one. Okay, what are we going to do? LabTech is going to look at this file path. And if this file is here, that is how we determine ESET nod v4 is installed in that machine. This nomenclature indicates we are looking at a registry key. This is kind of apparent if we look at the name here, but this is the next step. We're going to open up this registry key. Notice the colon delimiter here. We're going to open up this registry value that's at this key, and we're going to read the contents, and it is a file path. Okay, that's how LabTech knows where the definition locations are and if they're up to date or not. Here's the update command. So when you use the context menu to tell a machine or group or client to update its antivirus, this is what it's going to run. Okay, AP process. This is how it knows whether it's running or not. Okay, so if you see a machine come up that says it's not running antivirus and you know better, maybe it's not in our list. We try to keep this up to date. But you are able to go ahead and make fixes on the fly. Redirected apps. This is the list of applications available to us in the redirectors button here. Now, if you haven't gotten familiar with a redirector, basically it's a way for us to run a program, a network application, and connect to the remote machine independent of its firewall. Okay, as long as it can outbound on port 70, the Gopher port, you'll be able to connect to it. Okay, Telnet is a nice, easy. This machine is not running a Telnet server, so there'll be no point in hitting this. But it is running a terminal server, so I can click this, populate a reason, say OK. Now MSTSC, the executable, is going to run on my side. Okay, and we are going to send a command to the remote to extend its socket to the LabTech server. And after a couple of moments, this should go ahead and load up. Okay, the redirector does not work on my local system, but what I wanted to show you here is something probably interesting. We can redirect a network app to any machine that we have the agent installed on. Doesn't have to have the agent installed on it though. For example, so here's the local IP address of the machine, and he's got a router here. I need a telnet to it. Now there's no LabTech agent on there, but I can use the agent on this remote machine and proxy through it. Redirectors, telnet. I'm going to hold Shift and click telnet, and we get a pop-up. Now the default is 127.0.0.1 to the local machine. That's normally what we redirect to, but in this case 192.168.56.101. Okay. Terminal server will also work like this. Maybe you need a remote to a machine that doesn't have the LabTech agent on it, but you do have an agent deployed. This can get you out of a sticky situation. Redirected apps. App Blacklist, app waitlist. We talked about this on the software. This is the complete list. Okay, so if you want to remove an entry, that's a good way to do it. We can add here too, but it's probably much easier just to use the right-click context menu on the server tab, or sorry, the software tab on the computer. App waitlist is the same. Properties. This is probably something you're not going to change very often at all. I just wanted to point it out here. Sometimes support will have you go here, just if nothing else, just to read the values that are here. Okay, so that's how you configure your LabTech system in a nutshell. While we're here, let's talk about the export. Remember how we logged time in with that ticket? Well, this is how we can see it all. Select time entries. All clients is selected by default. Cancel, whoops. Click the preview button. Okay, and here's our entry. Now we can mark slips build, okay, but like the pop-up says, we're going to have to do an export first. So let's go ahead and do an export. We don't bolt directly to any accounting software, but we will export as either an XML or a CSV, either of which usually always can be imported by the accounting software. Now the trick is you just want to make sure that your billing categories are the same as the time categories here, the billing categories in your accounting software. Okay, so once you do the export and then do the import, that should just line right up. Your customer names will be the same, and mark them as billed. Okay. Okay, so continue to roll out LabTech to your internal environment. Have all the machines in your office reporting in to the main office for that first client. Use the extra data fields to assign a service plan, okay, your daily health check information, patching if you so want. Okay. Also build yourself a heads-up display. Take some time to explore the sensors. Finally, become familiar with the data views. It's very handy when somebody asks you a question, what machines do we have out there that aren't patched? You know exactly where to go. Okay, so this concludes session 1, overview on LabTech. The next session is going to be completely devoted to monitors and to scripts. So thank you very much for your time. Thanks for choosing LabTech, and we'll see you next time.